A nasty pair of New York cab drivers, the president of Columbia University, traded barbs today and insults with the president of Iran this afternoon in Manhattan. Trying to cover his tracks for inviting him in the first place, the university president trashed his guest on every front before giving him a chance to even speak. He committed the outrage, I think, of actually winning sympathy for the demagogue he invited to his campus. The diminutive head of state he referred to as petty. It was the American host who came across, I'm afraid, as petty. Anyway, not a great day for America, the land of the free, that looked today like it was afraid to hear what it didn't like hearing. Looked today like the bully big shot first world country picking on the little guy it had invited into the lion's den. Ahmadinejad will dine out for the rest of his life on this day in Gotham. He will have what he needs most, the moral indignation of a people who spent years being exploited by the Shah, who the US CIA placed on his peacock throne. Anyway, our second story tonight, Hillary Clinton pulled a Groucho Marx yesterday, going one-on-one with all 5 Sunday interview shows. It was Groucho Marx who once offered to, quote, fight every man in the house for $1. Let's see how she did with someone who, believe it or not, watched all 5 shows yesterday. And in our hardball debate tonight, a young Republican from Columbia University who thinks the Iranian president should not have been on campus today, and a young Democrat who thinks he should have been there. But first, Hardball's David Schuster has this report.
At Columbia University, the protests actually started on Sunday. Today, they multiplied. And by noon, thousands of demonstrators filled the streets of New York City. It's not clear if Ahmadinejad could hear the protests. He arrived through the backside of the auditorium, protected by the Secret Service and New York City police. But when the event began, the Iranian president got an earful about his denials of the Holocaust, his threats to wipe out Israel, his arms shipments to insurgents in Iraq, and his efforts to build a nuclear weapon.
You are either brazenly provocative or astonishingly uneducated. Why have you chosen to make the people of your country vulnerable to the effects of international economic sanctions and threaten to engulf the world in nuclear annihilation?
Ahmadinejad did not answer the questions directly.
We want to have the right to self-determination towards our future. We want to be independent. Don't interfere in us.
On the Iranian president's threats against Israel, first he sidestepped the question, then he was asked again.
Do you or your government seek the destruction of the state of Israel as a Jewish state? And I think you could answer that question with a single word, either yes or no.
You ask the question and then you want the answer the way you want to hear it.
Ahmadinejad never directly answered. Instead, he repeatedly told the audience that their problems with him have been created by the political leadership of the United States. Ahmadinejad's performance was similar to what aired Sunday night on 60 Minutes.
Well, this is what the American officials are saying.
Every time Scott Pelley tried to pin him down on Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons or the Iranian supply of weaponry to Iraqi insurgents, Ahmadinejad went off on his own tangent.
Mr. President, can you tell me that you are not sending weapons to Iraq? Very simple, very directly.
We don't need to do that. We are very much opposed to war and insecurity.
Is that no, sir?
Iraq. It's very clear, the situation. The insecurity in Iraq is detrimental to our interests.
At Columbia University today, Ahmadinejad dismissed questions about the dozens of public hangings of drug dealers.
Don't you have capital punishment in the United States? You do too.
Some of those executed were allegedly engaged in homosexual behavior. Ahmadinejad denied that.
In Iran, we don't have homosexuals like in your country. We don't have that in our country.
Despite all of his views, Ahmadinejad said the United States and Iran could be friends someday. In the meantime, he offered another challenge to President Bush.
I am ready in the United Nations to engage in a debate with Mr. Bush, the President of the United States, about critical international issues.
Today, Ahmadinejad repeatedly condemned U.S. management of the world. And while many Americans might agree with him on that, nearly everything else Ahmadinejad said was divorced from reality. The Iranian president and President Bush will both speak to the United Nations tomorrow. I'm David Schuster for Hardball.